When you're talking about top social media stocks, though, and you're probably thinking about Meta Platforms, Alphabet, maybe Snap or Pinterest, but there's one stock that I think could have even more upside in the long run, and that company recently reported earnings. The stock I'm talking about is Reddit. So Reddit's a fairly new stock. It went public earlier this year, and its market cap is still fairly light at around $13 billion. And here's what I like about the business. So Reddit reported earnings on October 29th, and it had a lot of good numbers here. So daily active uniques, which is basically how it measures its user growth, was up 47%. Revenue's up 68%. It achieved GAAP profitability, which basically means unadjusted net income, $29.9 million. So that's a net margin or a profit margin of almost 9%, so fairly solid. It also had free cash flow of $70 million. So overall, it was a really solid quarter for the company. If we take a closer look here, we can see that a year ago had a net loss of $7.4 million. So a really big improvement from a year ago. Excellent gross margins of over 90%. So there's a lot to like about the quarter, and hence the stock was up big in after hours trading. So a really good sign that Reddit's business is on the right track. And if we look at previous quarters, the company has posted a profit before, but the fact that it's generating so much growth and also showing improvement on the bottom line is a really positive thing, because that's something that investors want to be able to see, that the company is able to scale and do so in a profitable way. Now, while the stock's valuation is fairly low, this isn't a terribly cheap stock by any means. It's trading at 13 times sales, 7 times book value. Forward PE is kind of useless at this point, just because the company's just starting to generate consistent profits, hopefully. I mean, this is just one quarter, but if it starts to build up a trend, then these numbers will start to populate. We'll have positive numbers. This forward PE probably is going to come down as well as analysts start to estimate better numbers for the business. So the multiples aren't terribly helpful right now, but it's appealing because the market cap is still fairly light at $13 billion. And this is with the stock already doing fairly well this year. So I see a lot of potential upside, especially as it starts to generate greater profits. And as that happens, you'll see more analyst upgrades. Right now, analysts aren't too bullish on the stock. They think it's actually peaked already, but after this latest quarter, I suspect there'll be a lot of upgrades to come. And if Reddit can keep on this path of growing both its top and bottom lines, there's going to be more upgrades to come. And so even though it may seem that the price is high in relation to the consensus price target, I still think this is a bit low, and this will come up in the future. And one of the reasons why I like Reddit in the long run is because the company's basically been leaving money on the table. It's been allowing companies to basically scrape their data for free. And so I'm not going to say what their CEO said, but you can read here what they think about some of these companies basically crawling their site without properly compensating them. So, I mean, that's obviously a bad thing, but the good news is that means there's a lot of money on the table for Reddit to potentially generate a lot more revenue from Google, from Microsoft, from all these big tech companies and developers accessing its platform. So it's still in the early stages of monetizing that and really taking advantage of those opportunities. Another reason I really like Reddit is, compared to the other social media stocks, it has a big advantage. Because with Google, a big problem is cookies, right? Google tracks users, their habits, and whether it keeps cookies or doesn't keep cookies, that could potentially impact the usefulness that advertisers have when they're spending money on Google's platform, because they're not really sure the quality of the ad spend that they're getting with Google, because you basically have to determine the profile, the type of user that you're targeting. Same with Facebook. You're trying to say, okay, what type of user is most likely going to be interested in the product or service that we're selling. With Reddit, it's a much different story. You don't have to worry about tracking users, because if a user is interested in a certain topic, in a certain product or service, they're going to go to a subreddit that reflects that. So if someone's interested in baseball, they might go to subreddits related to Major League Baseball or specific baseball teams. So it's a lot easier for advertisers to target those specific subreddits and advertise and market to them, and without having to worry about cookies and any sort of tracking data. So I like it from the fact that advertisers are going to feel a bit more confident with getting more bang for their buck. Reddit's not going to have to worry about cookies and tracking all sorts of data. So their business model is going to be a lot simpler than maybe a Google or Facebook has, where it has to worry about making sure that it's targeting the right type of person for advertisers. Advertisers with Reddit have a bit more control in targeting specific subreddits and those sorts of things, because if someone's interested in something, they're going to go to that subreddit. I mean, someone can put that they have certain interests on Facebook, but whether and how accurate that is, I mean, people may not update that, so it may not be a whole lot useful for advertisers in making sure that they're reaching the right audience, which is why I think Reddit is a really undervalued and underrated stock right now, because given its fairly small valuation and the potential that it has, especially now that it's focusing on monetizing more areas of its business in terms of API, these deals with these tech companies scraping their data. I think that there's a whole lot of potential for the business to be a whole lot more valuable. So even though it's surging after earnings, I think this is a stock to watch out for, because I think it has a lot of potential to become a lot more valuable. And I think it's definitely one of the best valued social media stocks you can buy right now.